Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to take this one a little bit easier. I don't have as much media, but I'm going to try to do my best to bring you this topic as best I can. Alright, so the first couple of things I want to talk about is the background for this. I actually found the video that I couldn't show you last time. You are looking at what is supposed to be an actual photo, again alleged, of the Earth from quote-unquote space beyond the firmament, however you want to actually believe it. My guess is this is a photo from like the 1960s or so, and this actually has a short video which actually I have found. So I'll be showing that along with the information relating to how the Earth does not spin. Like I said, I don't have a lot on this one. Oddly enough, I had a very, very weird incident today. I was going to put up this video several times, and several times I went back to my notes, which I save in a notepad file. You know, different URLs I use, different images, this and that. And oddly enough, the references to the actual spinning or not spinning of the Earth were actually gone. Just like today with the URL references to this video, I had to go and I had to re-look for them. So you can tell me whether or not you believe in this one way or another, as always you decide. But when I'm on my computer and I go into a file that nobody's been on my laptop, and URLs are missing, you can't tell me there isn't something up with that. So again, this is supposed to be an actual bona fide, like 1960s-ish, actual photograph of the Earth as it is flat. I can't say one way or another that it isn't CGI'd into a 1960s filter. I can't say that it isn't one thing versus another, but it actually looks pretty authentic. And when you see the video, you're just going to go, wow. So I want to talk about all the different things, and I want to talk about how it is that the Earth does not spin. When I talk about spin, I'm not talking about the fact that there is no wind, or the fact that there is wind, or the fact that the ocean tide currents don't move the clouds. All that stuff happens. We've seen that happen. We know that happens. That is in no way, shape, or form what I'm talking about. When I say the Earth has no spin, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm referring to is this cockamamie idea that for some reason or another, the Earth is traveling 1,000 and thousands of miles an hour in one circular direction or another. And that is what I count as spin. And the Earth does not spin. I can almost guarantee the Earth does not spin. I can guarantee the Earth does not spin from many, many, many different vantage points. Some of which you go, but Mark. Or, person doing this video. By the way, my name is Mark. As you've seen my America 2.0 videos, no doubt. But there's no spin. But how can you attest for all the things that the spin is actually connected to? Mark, you claim to be a hunter. You know your physics. How come a bullet shot at, say, 500 yards comes at a different point in the linear procession than where it landed? Well, you have barreled rifling. You have rifling in your barrel, and you're rifling, and the Earth and everything around it basically counts as the spin. You have the wind, which is real. You have the per minutes, which is real. But the Earth does not spin. It's all centrifugal forces. It isn't even magnetic so much. It's really just kind of centrifugal forces that act on the bullet that push it in another direction. Basically the same thing with a basketball. You toss a basketball into the air, even in a half court. You have to account for the vector of making it into the basket. So if you're left-handed, you have to shoot right. If you're right-handed, you have to shoot left. Well, you're not really countering any spin of the Earth when you shoot the basketball or the hockey puck or the football into any of the goalposts or the baskets. What you're doing is you're basically working on the magnetics of the Earth and the fact that that object happens to spin, and that the various physics in the background are causing that object to go off course instead of straight into the space where you want it. And the very air around it is actually pushing it away or toward the object in question. It's the way it's always been. It has nothing to do with actual spin. Doesn't matter if you're hitting a hockey puck into a goalie net, a basketball into a net inside a closed area, inside a closed stadium, gym, or if you're shooting a rifle round a mile. The Earth does not spin. I guarantee it. And that is why. It's because the Earth does not spin. There's all kinds of wind, all kinds of different factors. You have everything from magnetism, the inertia of the object, and the inertia in the environment. Like I said, going back to shooting, you have the spin and counter spin minutes and various features out of the barrel acting on the object in question, going to hopefully nothing more than a paper target or a rock. Which, if you're shooting, that's what you're hopefully aiming at and not a live person, animal, etc. But the Earth does not actually spin. It never has, never will. In fact, the moon and the sun actually counter the Earth. And I showed that in the Sciences of the Flat Earth documentary. And I showed that, and that basically proves the same theory. And as I said before, the ocean tides and the winds and various things of that sort kind of give the impression that the Earth spins. It does not. But the Earth itself is, for the best of my knowledge, quite stationary. That's another subject altogether. And does not rotate. It is a stationary feature of the world we live in. One of the reasons the Earth doesn't spin, ladies and gentlemen, is because if the Earth spun, the water inside it would be all over the place. If you ever remember playing ball and you got the ball wet and you went and threw it and the water squirted all over to its target, maybe you were throwing a ball at someone, I don't know, at the beach or something like that, and you actually tossed it and the water squirted all over as the ball actually rotated. Well, the ball had the spin. The Earth does not. So, this is basically, the Earth is flat. This ball has water in it or some kind of liquid. And as you throw it, you can see as it spins outward and upward, the water or liquid thereof spills out everywhere. Because water doesn't stick on a flat Earth to a spinning ball. Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll show it one more time. Earth is flat. If the Earth was actually filled while spinning, the water would leak out because water doesn't stick to a spinning ball. No matter how many magnetics, how much gravity you have, folks, it wouldn't be enough for the volume. And I would say that right there in that presentation was enough to prove that the Earth itself does not spin. I know you want more proof. We're going to get to it. We're definitely going to get to that proof. We're going to show you, pound for pound, beyond any reasonable, that the Earth does not actually spin. And how we're going to do that is very, 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 very simple. And along with spin, you can probably add rotation and wobble, seeing that it would have the almost exact same physical condition where the water would be spilling out everywhere. It didn't matter if it was in a globe, if it was flat, or any other major shape. There's almost no magnetic forces or gravitational forces that would be able to hold in all of that extra mass, since it would almost be a 40-60 mixture between the solid and the liquid state. So I want to go ahead and I want to show you something very simple. That video I just showed you was probably the best evidence we have that nothing really survives a spin at, say, 1,000 miles an hour, and the water wouldn't be leaking out everywhere. I mean, either we have a dome or we don't. The Earth spins or it doesn't, and all this stuff would be all working together. Well, here's your answer, folks. Earth is flat, water is level, and because water is level, folks, it's not moving at thousands of miles an hour. The clouds are. Everything above it is. The upper part of the firmament, aka the clouds, etc., is the part moving because of all the ocean currents and air moving over the land. That part's moving. We know that part's moving. But as far as the planet itself, no. It has no spin, has no rotation, probably has no wobble. And we've known this for hundreds of years, if not thousands. And I think it was Thomas Aquinas that basically brought the heliocentric model to light. Catholic Church didn't like it, but they went along with it eventually. And I think it's actually coming back to basically say, well, these people are getting smart now and they want the real answers. And you want the real answers? This is as close as you're going to get right there. That's as close to any real answers you're going to get. That picture right there. It's taken me nearly 6 years to find that video. Now that I've found it, I guarantee you this. When you see this video, you're going to say, well, it's kind of spotty, it's kind of this, it's kind of that. Well, they're not going to show you the complete version and leak it online and everything else. So what I can show you, I will show you. But the Earth has no spin, ladies and gentlemen. This is not rocket science. This is pure and simple physics. This is actually quite easy to understand, and everything else around it is quite easy to understand. The Earth does not spin, it does not rotate, best of my knowledge, and it has no wobble, best of my knowledge. Never has, never will, best of my knowledge. One of the best things I can tell you is basically water is level, Earth is flat. Regardless of whether or not this picture or the globe is closer to anything we know of. Before I really get into the Earth doesn't spin, folks, have you guys ever seen a photo of the other side of the so-called flat Earth, quote unquote? Have you? Have you guys ever seen an actual photo of what they claim the other side of the flat Earth looks like? Because it's actually quite interesting. We know this side, but if there's a flat Earth, folks, I've always wondered, what does the other side look like? I found a flat Earth map, and it depicts the other side of the coin. I'm just going to wait a second or two and allow you to sink that in. Would you like to see it? Okay. Well, it's nothing really amazing, but I think it's absolutely amazing when you ask, what's on the other side of the coin? Well, here it is, folks. Flat Earth world map. Australia, not down under. Here's the side we're always told about. This is the side that nobody supposedly sees. There's the polar north. Polar north. And supposedly this is a piece of land here. Piece of land here, both green. And this is snow covered. Lots and lots of ocean. And the South Pole still goes all the way around. So you actually can go from our plane over to the other side of the map, folks. I just want you to sink that in for a little bit so that you actually understand that there is way more to this than anybody is telling you. I've always wondered, what's the other side look like? I can't guarantee you this is what it looks like. But as always, folks, you decide. And this is the clearest drawing of the other side of the map I've seen yet. This means more and more is being basically put out that says, alright guys, what's the other side look like? Oh, it's a deep space, it's a gravity field, it's all water, it's all technical, don't worry about it, No, seriously, what does it look like? Well, there's some land and there's some ice and not much else. Cool, how do you get there? Hey, you gotta go to the South Pole. What? Oh, yeah, you have to go over the South Pole in order to get there. Let's go through the tunnel systems through the Earth. Shh, we don't talk about that? Okay, fine. Alright, so, anyways, folks. This is it. This is the reality we know. And I'll go into flight maps and stuff in the next coming video and show you, like, the reality of the flat Earth map. And how we basically just go bing, bing, bing and say, oh yeah, the Earth is round, when it's not. And we just don't go and over here. Very interesting, folks. Very, very, very interesting indeed. So, now you finally got to see, one, a picture of the actual Earth as it's supposed to be represented in the flat Earth reality, non-heliocentric model. I showed you how the Earth does not spin, does not rotate, does not wobble, best of my knowledge. Simple physics, simple science proves it. If so, the water would not stay in its position, the gravity would not hold it in, the magnetics would not hold it in, Water, as you know, is very, very, very balanced. So it doesn't have a lot of ionic bonds to hold to magnetic poles and all kinds of weird stuff that they would probably claim at some point or another. So what I want to kind of do with you guys is I want to talk about everything going on, and I want to show you something very interesting that I found. The Earth does not spin, okay? Alright. Now, here's the weird thing. We know that down here we have the the winds and everything from the various ocean tides, the tides coming, from the sun hitting the various points and making air currents and the oceanic currents and everything else in the air that moves things. Okay, we know about that. Now, the very fun thing is there's almost nothing going on that presents any spin inside the planet. Now, here's the funny thing. You ever see those weird pictures where they show the heavens and they show everything spinning above it? That's actually very interesting because over here, basically, and I'll read this too, it says, in a high-spinning globe, high-altitude balloons and amateur rockets should never stay over the same place. Centripetal force has never been observed. Troposphere starts at 10 kilometers above the Earth, which I think is at, 73, 74 miles above. Stratosphere, the so-called wind, is at 40 kilometers. Mesosphere, 50 kilometers. Thermosphere, 300 kilometers. Exosphere, 400 kilometer altitude. And supposedly it's between 1,000 and 1,125 miles an hour as you reach outside the exosphere. So everything is actually spinning around the planet, but the planet is actually shielded. Well, if there isn't anything solid, folks, if there's no Earth dome, no firmament, how is it that everything's spinning around us? Interesting. The Earth does not spin, folks. Everything around it does, or at least in the proximity of everything. I don't have the science on this yet. I'm going to get to it. But this is actually pretty good information here. They claim we're inside. They claim that that the powers that be, ones that run all the NASA and all the science of our planet and stuff, basically claim that space is a vacuum. Well, space is not a vacuum because the higher you go up, the more current you see. 1,125 miles per hour. That's not a vacuum, folks. That's an anti-vacuum. In fact, the planet is the vacuum. That's where your sun and your moon are, and it's somewhere over here. The more and more we hear about it, the more and more we hear that the sun and the moon are only several thousand miles off, and they're only several thousand miles big. Now, I don't want to say that we have a sun per planet or anything along that lines, because that's just preposterous. Even with my logic, I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is that more and more science is proving that as you go up, there is an increase in miles per hour of resistance from the inertial force, which is from the starting point of where the Earth supposedly stops, or the Earth's sky, whatever you want to call it. And as you exceed upward, you hit some kind of a non-vacuumal force, which exceeds at 1,125 miles per hour going up. from this point right here. It's very interesting, folks. It's very interesting. I find it very interesting indeed. Now, what I really want to find interesting more is why this doesn't exist, why they've been lying to us. Well, you know what? I think for the most part, everybody gave it their best guess, and now they're kind of just letting it leak out. That's what honestly I believe. And now that the sciences are proving more and more that the higher you go, the more of a non-vacuum you actually face. I mean, can you imagine at some point if you go, okay, firmament, no firmament, let's say you get above the quote-unquote firmament, if such a thing exists. I'm not so sure that it does, but I saw the rocket and I can't deny what happened to the rocket. So, and that was another 2 videos, but basically they shot a rocket up and it hit something and there was nothing there. Therefore, there had to have been a firmament of some kind that it hit, blocking the rocket. And everybody basically says, you cannot shoot a rocket to the moon because of the firmament. Please don't call me again. So, that's actually very interesting. And if you watched the last video, you would know that that actually took place. GeoShifter, I believe, was the YouTube that showed the launch of the rocket. It showed it hitting what everybody says is the firmament. Very interesting. Also very interesting is when these guys shoot these rockets into the air, and you see this space void here. The Earth is supposed to be filled with satellites. Yet most, if not all of these, when they do shoot these cameras into the high altitude, there's no satellites that have been observed. Best of my knowledge. I'm sure that that's wrong, but I've seen 2 or 3 amateur rocket videos. I've seen the RC one where they fly the RC FPV plane down, and in none of those were there any satellites, were there any airplanes, UFOs, etc. And yet, according to this, right out of the troposphere, it's supposed to be 1,000 miles an hour, and up to 1125 miles an hour out of the exosphere, and that could go on and on, almost to an infinity, which basically suggests we're in some kind of a pressurized vacuum, or some kind of a system that basically you move, at a certain rotationary period, and that basically makes up your reality. Well, if that's the case, then if we really could break through the firmament, and we could actually move through everything, that vectoral force, that 1125, should be able to push you in any direction if you curve the right, situation. I'm not kidding, it's right there. I have a lot more to show you, but I just want to get these out of the way and show you that this is simple physics, folks. I'll go back and show you that flat Earth video one more time. Or the spinning ball video, rather. The Earth is flat. Always has been and water doesn't stick to a spinning ball. I know they use dye in the water, but it's still the same thing, folks. I mean, this is simple physics, simple science, folks. There's nothing to this. Absolutely nothing major to these concepts. Now what I want to show you is very simple. The Earth is flat. There is no spin on the Earth. I have a flight video of a helicopter pilot learning to fly. He's still all over the place a little bit, but he's also kind of learning how to fly, so I apologize for the yawing, which is the tilting in one direction versus the other, and the gyroscopic controls being a little malfunctionable. I had a better video from the military of a military helicopter literally just stabilized, floating, but unfortunately, somebody who helps me with these videos aren't available this time through to show me the better videos, so I had to run out and get my own. And this is actually a helicopter training video, but as you can see, if the Earth was spinning, folks, and everything else, this helicopter should be flying into these trees and not just kind of lazying about. I turned the sound off just so you wouldn't hear the intro and everything, but helicopter flight videos, student pilot learning, you can watch as the pilot just kind of dances around. He's learning to yaw. That's called yawing, by the way, just moving side to side like that. And he's learning to go to different posts and backing up and this and that. If you notice, the ground is the idea here, not the helicopter. The ground is not moving. He's not flying into any of the trees at 1,000 miles an hour. Therefore, the Earth is not spinning. Never has spun, best of my knowledge. There is no rotation, best of my knowledge. And there is probably no wobble. Again, best of my knowledge. So, in and of itself, there is no wobble. So it doesn't matter how long you watch this, you're not going to see this guy flying millions of miles an hour. Again, that's yawing when he goes side to side, and even backwards is a backward yaw. So this guy's just learning to fly. He's just basically taking the controls and moving around. And now he's going forward, now he's going back, and now he's basically just learning his directions. So if this guy was an experienced helicopter pilot, he would basically just be in one place. Now, maybe he's learning to go back and forth. I don't really know. I haven't watched this all the way through, but coming from a pilot background, at least partly, now he's going up in the air and coming around. He's using the controls a little bit. So as you can see, the Earth is not spinning around him as he's gyroscopically stable. And I have something even better to show you, which I think you're going to love. And it is an actual instructor, folks, that claims absolutely that the Earth is flat. Now, I don't have the whole time to show you this entire video beyond a reasonable doubt, so this is one of those you're going to have to check out for yourself, but I have it down here. It'll be in the list of sources. Flight instructor, we all fly over a flat Earth. SW24, Mark Sargent.
Straight to you from a spaceship currently running down a Mariner flying boat. It's out for flight. Yeah, you guys. That's the creepy part about Flight 19. If anyone wants to look that up, the Mariner flying boat. That's pretty. We're the stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which shows that all of us living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure, thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, then your internet is broken. My good friend, personal wing show, is a very tired Jonathan from Jersey. How are you, man?
I'm tired.
Jonathan spent all day doing physical, manual labor projects at home, and he is worn out. So part of my job is just that he doesn't nod off and like not hit buttons, and I bet you I'll have to do that at least once tonight. Like, oh, let's run the clip, okay, Jonathan? Jonathan, I think it may happen. Anyway, you don't have to talk much, man. But
nothing. Recorded this.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get to that in we flight instructor out of Iowa. He owns his own flight instruction company, and he called me up and said, "Look, I got some information for you." And we asked him to be on air, and he volunteered. You know, his name, his company, the whole 9 yards. He's going to come on and say, "Yeah, we're flying above a flat world, a flat Earth." And I'd say, you guys wanted someone in the air. This is what we got for you, and it's going to be interesting because it was illuminating for me. He even, by the time we got about halfway in, it got pretty interesting, I thought.
Just thinking that, and after this interview tonight goes out over the air, his career is going to go into a flat spin.
Yeah, hopefully not. No, we'll see. I love the fact that more people are coming forward, and we'll talk about that, at the end of the show. But before we get to the interview, which we'll queue up here in just a minute.
So you heard it there. They had an interview with a flight instructor who was claiming, I think they said he actually ran a flight school, who can claim the Earth basically is flat. And you've seen my version of science that proves the Earth has no spin. So more and more of this is getting more and more scientifically based. And it's just amazing. And there's one clip I want to play from this video, Flat Earth Proof 11. It's about a minute, and it's actually pretty good. Basically, if I cut this off before or after, or I should have, basically he says, with the Earth spinning as fast as it's supposed to be, the Earth's atmosphere should have been basically disintegrated by now. And he actually proves a pretty good point. So let me get into this. This will be in the sources too.
As is the case in every single experiment ever conducted. In other words, after the alleged 4.5 billion years of Earth speeding around the sun at over 100,000 kilometers per hour, the atmosphere should have long since dissipated by now. But there's gravity, people argue, maintaining the atmosphere perfectly. Right, whilst, of course, allowing simultaneous cross-directional winds to blow, insects to hover, birds to take off and fly, smoke to rise, not to mention helium-filled balloons, etc., etc., notwithstanding that it has never been shown that any object will attract matter to it due to its mass alone.
And that basically goes into my theory, alongside that the Earth has no spin. And one of the reasons that the Earth has no spin now is basically due to the fact that it should have wore out Earth's atmosphere by now. Honestly, it should have. And that is actually a good synopsis as to why the Earth does not spin. Because not only would the water leak out, and everything probably end up looking like a cornstalk husk in shape. But basically, if the Earth was spinning thousands and thousands and thousands of miles per hour, like he just said, the atmosphere should be gone over millennia, and the atmosphere hasn't changed one bit. Okay, it's changed it gradually, we understand, but that's not the point. The point is, the Earth has no spin. Never has, never will. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do is I want to close here by saying it doesn't matter how much evidence I have. It's always up to you to believe, and you will always believe what you believe, and that's always great. And as always, you decide, but I want to show you one more thing here. I do want to show you the actual video of this picture I have here, so that you can see whether or not you believe it's the actual flat Earth or not. It could be a filtered CGI rendering. It could be real. As always, you decide. And this is basically it right here. I'll play it 2 or 3 more times so that you can actually see it. But that's basically the idea here, is that it just basically does that. So again, maybe partly CGI'd, but I believe at least some of it to be absolutely real. Because it does show the space above, and then it shows the flat Earth and space, then flat Earth. So I actually believe this to be real, at least in part. That's actually the flat Earth. There's space, and it showed part of the glisten of the dome or firmament. And I'm going to do it one more time. So this has been our documentary on the flat Earth has no spin. There's been lots of evidence to prove that there is no spin. The simple ball filled with water spun in one direction spills out all the water. As you saw, if the Earth does spin, it should have basically wiped out the Earth's atmosphere millennia ago. And all the other factors, you watch that video, it'll go into a real certified flight instructor. I believe he actually runs an actual flight school, and he basically talks about the flat Earth and how we fly via the flat Earth. I even showed you a quote-unquote real photo of the real flat Earth and a video of the real flat Earth and the real space or outer space. I also showed you another picture, which I think is even, well, this is amazing. This photo here with the video in space and the flat Earth being shown is amazing. But what I can't get over is the other side of the coin on that flat Earth map that I showed in the beginning. So this is flat Earth, or the flat Earth has no spin documentary, and as always, folks, you decide. Thank you.